Miss Jasmine, thank you for being here, being our representative graduating senior. I am preaching to you, Missy, and I'm preaching to those who aren't here, and I'm preaching to all those who have ever graduated, but haven't graduated from the journey of faith. In other words, right? The journey continues. So, those who have ears, let them hear. This is to our seniors, but it's to all of us who are on the journey. But, Miss Jasmine, I just want to acknowledge something and so that we get it out and have it be out there. Compared to you, I'm really old. And I know that. You're graduating from high school. I graduated in 1977. Yeah. Other old entities that I want to acknowledge. This church goes back to 1850. You thought I was old. 1855. I found out that Ethan went to a church, the Allentown First Presbyterian Church, which goes back to 1720. The Christian tradition goes back to the second half of the first century. The ancient Jewish writings began in 900 AD, about 3,000 years ago. And the oral tradition of the Hebrew people, so before they started writing down, goes back another 1,000 years. So we're talking 4,000 years. So here's the question. And this summer is a summer series of tough texts. And so the question is, since we're struggling with tough texts to an extent, for this morning, the question to our seniors and to all of us who are wanting senior discounts, can ancient written texts, stories of the Christian church, the early Christian church, and the witness and testimony of people our age, my age, have something relevant to say to us, to say to Miss Jasmine and other young people? Maybe not just relevant, but urgent to say that may impact their lives over the next 10 to 12 years, that may impact our lives regarding our graduates, impact the fact that they're getting jobs, or going to college, they're having relationships and decisions, and they're going to start deciding how to spend their own resources, as they get more and more independent, their time, their resources, their talents, and their money. So the seniors, I think, are in what is called Gen Z. Is that true? People born in the late 90s up to 2009. Jen? All right, so our you don't know when your daughter was born? Oh, well, that's perfect. She's a millennial. So here's what they say about millennials. Millennials just describe themselves as being indifferent to faith. They attach little importance to the practice and truths of Christianity. This is in general, okay? They are called the don'ts. So even though they might say that, yeah, I was brought up Christian, I went to a Christian church, they're labeled the don'ts. Don't know, don't care, don't believe. Okay? That's the millennials. 24 out of 25 do not profess a biblical view of human existence. And according to the study, Gen Z, which comes after them, have even less interest in maintaining ties to the biblical tradition, to Christian worship and fellowship, to study and service. And yet here I am, thinking about, speaking about Scripture to millennials. and to all of us as well. Two passages that are essential keys to the Christian faith. Deuteronomy 6 is called the Shema. If you've heard of the Shema. In Hebrew, that means listen. Listen. One of the most important passages in the Old Testament, in the Jewish scriptures, hugely significant for thousands of years for the Jewish people, a prayer that they're supposed to say twice a day. And it starts in Deuteronomy where it says, listen, O Israel, the Lord is one. Love God with your heart, soul, and strength. And then it goes on to say at the end of this brief passage that John read, teach your children. The song by Crosby, Stills, and Nash, right? Who knew that they were quoting Deuteronomy? As a pastor and as parents, Deb and I tried and continue to try our best to impress upon our two young adult children the urgent message of this passage. Christian parents do their best, right? To impress upon their children. Churches do their best. How many Sunday school teachers of this church do we have here? Raise your hand, those who help teach in the Sunday school. Thank you. Let's hear it for our teachers. Teach your children. That's what we're trying to do. That's what we try to do. But guess what? A professor of mine from seminary said, hey, a parent's job is to teach their children so well that by the time they're 18, they're ready and able to fend for themselves, make their own decisions. And that's especially true when it comes to faith. Guess what? We cannot give faith to our children. It is their decision to commit themselves to God, to identify with God's love with their whole heart, soul, mind, and strength. Which brings us to the Corinthians passage. 1 Corinthians that was read. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, thought like a child, reasoned like a child. But when I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. And then it goes on to talk about how faith is not clear. It's something that is mysterious. It's spiritual. It's dim. It's quiet. God speaks softly to us. God does not usually smack us in the face. Although sometimes when we're low, when we're knocked to our knees, God does come to us. And that is a time when we can see God. What can I say? This passage in Corinthians, 1 Corinthians 13, it moves me. And it moves many of us older people here this morning. We believe that it speaks about the deepest truth known to human beings. That it speaks of the truest love. You know, young people are looking for love. Yes? I mean, we all are. But young people especially are looking for loving connections with others other than their family at this time in their lives. And this passage speaks in my heart and in my mind about the truest love made possible and made real for human beings. That this passage reveals the very nature of love itself, which is of God for us. That can transform our lives and build us up in the nature of our lives and relationships. But such faith cannot be given to anyone. It can't be spoon-fed like we love feeding our babies when they're so young. I can remember my brother-in-law was feeding red beets to his child, and the child sneezed or coughed, and there was a picture of him with red spots on his face. We can't spoon feed faith to our young people. They can't receive it like they're going to receive a high school diploma or like they're going to get a paycheck or if they ever had a blood transfusion from a Christian. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work even by going to Sunday school or hearing dozens and dozens of long, boring sermons or not so boring sermons. There's a 29-year-old millennial, Daniela. She recently got brutally honest with me in a conversation. She said, I've tried just about everything. I've tried dating. I've tried partying with friends, traveling to amazing places, Iceland, the Rocky Mountains, going to concerts, skiing in the winter, surfing in the summer, getting a good high-paying job. I have a great apartment 1 block from the ocean. I've just bought a nice new car, but I'm still struggling with loneliness. She said, I can feel loneliness even when I'm with my friends. She said, I still struggle with feeling down. I still have a sense of emptiness, sort of being lost. I'm at a loss about what to do. And then she said, I've tried everything except God. And then she said, wouldn't it be a joke on me if God is the one who could provide what I need most in my life? And I'm thinking, you're almost there. But my response and my prayer and my hope for her and for you, the graduates, if they ever listen to the recording of this service, and for all of us, out of all the things that we enjoy doing, and I know you all have interests, out of all the things in which we invest our time and energy to do, and this is what I said to Daniela, do you really not have any leftover time or energy in your life to at least explore, investigate the possibility of God's reality, and that God is with you and has a plan for your life? Do you really not have any leftover time or energy for something? You've tried all that other stuff and you're still doing it. Nothing left over. You can't read a book. There are some really good books out there about God. There are podcasts, reflection, just reflecting. Daniela's almost there. She's acknowledging that she's tried everything else almost, and there's still something missing. Okay, keep reflecting. And if God is a possibility, then spend a little time and energy. Some of the most vigorous scientists, one of the chemistry professors at the college I attended was just brilliant. I mean, really, I really respected him. He took his class to the Galapagos Islands every January to explore, because he was biology or geology or something, and they explored. They went deep sea diving and did all this wonderful, amazing looking at God's creation. He was brilliant. He was a Christian. Some of the top athletes are authentic Christians, and not just when they get a touchdown. And, not just at the times when they're winning, but serious Christians. Some of the leading human rights trailblazers of all of history have been Christians. Some of the most brilliant scholars and authors have been Christians, have been deeply committed, open-minded, compassionate, grace-filled Christians. And one of those people is C.S. Lewis. Jasmine, you know C.S. Lewis. Have you ever watched the film The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe? Narnia Chronicles? He wrote that. So he was a brilliant scholar, a brilliant professor at Oxford University. Brilliant. And he was so brilliant that his brain told him, God doesn't exist. throughout his 20s, no, I have a brain. And because I am so rational, I have determined that rationally there cannot be a God. However, God found this brilliant, rational, reasonable man. He found him because God is always looking out for us. God is always watching out for that lost sheep. God is always searching for anyone and everyone. And God found C.S. Lewis, and C.S. Lewis found that he actually was encountering the reality of the living God. And he could not believe it. And he used a metaphor later on because, once he was encountered by God, he was smart enough to realize, I should get to know this God. And so he studied and read and grew in his understanding of his faith. And he became a brilliant writer and author of children's books and adult books. I'm going to try to give some books to our graduating seniors. And one of them is Mere Christianity. And he rationally explains how God exists. But one of his metaphors that he uses for knowing the truth about God, he says, I believe in God as I believe the sun has risen. Not just because I see it, but because by it, I see everything else. I think that's deep. When we're kids, we're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? How many kids say, I want to be a grateful, dedicated follower of Jesus? The only time they say that is during a children's story. Trust me. So, to our graduating seniors and to all of us on the journey of faith, never graduating from the school of faith, in all you'll be doing and exploring and learning as young adults during the wonderful, healthy periods as well as the difficult, challenging periods, in the midst of all the ups and downs that you'll be facing, because part of adulthood involves not just good days, but difficult days. May you receive gifts of spiritual curiosity, helping you discern God's light like the sun, illuminating God's loving grace at work within you, and radiating outwards to others through your acts of kindness, generosity, and respect towards all other people you meet. Goes for all of us, yes, on the journey. May it be so. Amen.